If you've watched my other videos, you will have heard of the controversy surrounding Peter drawing his sword and cutting off the ear of Malchus. And you would have also heard of the mystery behind the rooster crow after Peter's denial. But that is just scratching the surface of the undiscovered secrets about Jesus' passion and crucifixion. Today I'll be presenting to you everything you missed in the famous story of our Lord's death. Because to tell you the truth, almost every verse has some kind of cultural significance, prophetic connection, or symbolic meaning that dramatically enhances the story. Everything from the different types of wine he was offered to how the Roman guards were positioned around Jesus. I'm sure this video will enhance your appreciation of Jesus' sacrifice at Easter. And if this content does bless you in any way, please consider subscribing. It's free and really helps out. There's no more action-packed event in the Gospels than the passion and death of Jesus. The 4 Gospel accounts are made up of 89 chapters, and 18 of those chapters record the last few days of Jesus' life, the events leading up to his crucifixion. The synoptics have 3 chapters each, and John offers a massive 9 chapters covering these events, which means 20% of the combined gospel accounts cover Jesus' passion and a whopping 42% of John's gospel recounts it. In saying that, there's many details which I most certainly had missed despite reading this critical history every Easter. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus took Peter, James, and John away to pray. He left them 3 times, and all 3 times he returned to find them asleep. This subtly foreshadows the 3 times Peter would deny Christ just hours later. At this moment, he had already succumbed to his flesh, as Christ said to him, "The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." This is ultimately brought full circle in restoration when Jesus asks Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" after his resurrection. But this was just the beginning of the passion process. Upon arrival at Golgotha, Jesus was offered a drink. This was one of 2 times that he was offered a drink of wine from members of the crowd. But there's something to notice in the types of wine that were offered and the response that Jesus gave to each. For some reason, Jesus rejects the first wine but accepts the second. Now, why is that exactly? Well, the first wine was likely offered before he was hung. Mark 15:23 calls it wine mixed with myrrh. It was typically offered at a time to help decrease sensitivity to pain, making the agony of the cross more bearable. It seems Jesus declined this wine in order to experience the full torment of the cross, taking no shortcuts in his mission. The second wine was offered not long before Jesus' last breath. Mark 15:36 says some sour wine was soaked in a sponge, and the crowd said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come and take him down." This type of wine was commonly consumed by laborers to quench thirst, as it was cheap and did a better job than water. It was offered to Jesus, however, as an attempt to extend his life, to see whether Elijah would come to his aid. So the first wine, mixed with myrrh, was intended to lessen Jesus' pain so that he wouldn't endure the full agony of the cross. And the second, sour wine, was offered to extend his life as long as possible, thus prolonging his pain even further. This is the wine he chose to drink. He took no shortcuts in saving us. He chose to endure the full brutality of the cross without any assistance for our sake. But truth be told, there was actually a third wine extended to Jesus. This, however, was requested by him. There is a tiny detail that adds some awesome meaning to this moment. The sponge was carried on a hyssop branch, a very significant type of plant. It first appears in Exodus 12, verse 22, as a sign of protection against the judgment God was about to bring against Egypt. The blood of the lamb was painted on the door frames using a bunch of hyssop specifically. But that's not all. These 3 passages combine hyssop with scarlet wool, cedar wood, and the blood of a sacrifice to cleanse and heal the Jewish people, a sign that a broken transgressor could be restored through this process. The fact that hyssop was extended to Jesus in his last moments is representative of God's cleansing of sin once and for all through the crucified Messiah. His own words confirm this truth when he said, "It is finished." No more sacrifice, no more hyssop or wool or blood. It is finished once for all. Did you know that Jesus delivered 7 lines while he was on the cross? 7 sentences amidst his agony. The 7 lines delivered by Christ while he hung gave us valuable insight into his heart during his suffering. Not only that, most of them are prophetic fulfillments, such as "Father, forgive them," which fulfills Isaiah 53:12, making intercession for the transgressions. Or what about my God, why have you forsaken me?" the first line of Psalm 22. Or even his thirsting, being a reference to Psalm 22's "My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth." But that may not even be the craziest thing. I must give credit to my mum for this last one because I don't think any of you at home will have identified this before. I certainly did it until just recently. Psalm 22, written 1,000 years before Jesus, brings light to his internal thoughts during the cross, one of which he mentions being encircled by the bulls of Bashan. These were especially strong and destructive bulls, symbolic of the Jewish accusers and Roman oppressors. This is true in the Garden of Gethsemane, the trial at the Sanhedrin, and on the cross at Golgotha. In each instance, he was surrounded, encircled by the enemy. This would have given his opponents a sense of superiority and victory. They had finally entrapped the false teacher that so often slipped away from them. But as we know, the story doesn't end there. After his crucifixion, Jesus is encircled once more. Get ready because this will blow you away. Then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing at the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elders. In a loud voice they were saying, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise." From being encircled and devoured in the ultimate shame of his humiliating death, to being encircled by hundreds of thousands of heavenly beings. In the end, Christ received what was promised. Because he endured the encirclement of shame, he was exalted to the encirclement of glory. Let this be a reminder to us that our current shame and failings will someday be overwritten by glory and grace in the kingdom to come. Take heart and continue to obey our loving Father just as his Son did on that cross for us.